Welcome. It's our third episode. Woo, woo, woo. And today we're talking about systems. Dun, dun, dun.
Not quite sure why she tried to seduce you
I
with the
was
term
about to
support
say,
systems,
not all
but I
sultry with it.
definitely feel like I need a minute and a cold shower.
I was about to say, because it was kind of like, we'll be talking about sexual toys.
Oh, no,
On
not
Amber After
today.
Hours.
Yeah.
One day that show is coming.
And so is she. But anyways, back to support systems.
That's a highlight right there.
There you go, brothers and sisters who enjoy this. Have fun with that.
Welcome to the Chrysalis, where the widows get together and our three crazy selves talk about what it's like to be on the shit show of a ride, or what Lee Bob here calls it, the hellscape. I love it because that's exactly where we're at. So today we're going to talk about support system, you guys, and the good and the bad and the in between, and what works best for each one of us and our experience of it. How y'all feel about that?
That's good.
Right.
It's probably good
to would it change anything? So
yeah. And it's probably not a bad idea as well, too, to consider, what before your loved one died, how did you feel love? How did you feel support before that? For some couples, they do, marriage inventories. One easy one to do is the 5 love languages, which a lot of people know of. And that's just a way of knowing, how you feel love in the first place. For some people, it's those words of affirmation or the words of support. For others, it's, gifts, things like that. For me, I'm a huge acts of service guy. And so for a lot of how I felt support from my support system, a lot of it had to do with their actual actions. And I think as we go through our conversations, we want to make sure that you don't feel like these are the only things. We're working to bring voice to the fact that there's a wide array of ways you can feel support. And we want to make sure that, we're comfortable talking about it so that you can feel comfortable talking about it too. And if you ever need to vent, by golly, there's a lot of us who are more than happy to listen. So I would like to start by asking Jillian, why do you think your support system mattered? I know that might seem like a simple question, but let's start with, why do support systems matter?
I mean, are we going to talk about before my husband's death, or
you can talk about before and then how it felt when his passing happened, when he died? How did the support system, why did they matter?
And I'm a mute, so I'm not smacking all my chocolate in your ear.
I mean, I think support systems matter because, having support system is also kind of like a way your support system lets you know that, hey, you matter.
Mm-hmm.
And however, that there are always people who have your back. That there are always people that you can call, if you need something. That there are always people who will truly listen. My husband was really great over time, at making me feel like I was like very much seen and heard. And I think the support system is important because your support system is also the ones who will tell you those hard truths that you don't want to hear, necessarily. And I think that your support system just really makes your overall life sometimes, a lot easier, and that they have, your overall best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that, I think I'm not going to say we couldn't survive without a support system, or I couldn't survive, but my life would be significantly harder. And for the period of time that I was married, my husband was my support system.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after, I would say about maybe 3 years after we married, He and I moved to Washington, D.C. And for the time that we were there, I mean, it was only us. We had no family. It was just, him, myself, and our daughter, who was 3 when we moved to DC. And so, I mean, we depended upon each other, for everything. Like everything from, okay, you're going to take her to school because I can't, or
Mm-hmm.
I had a really long day and I'm stuck in traffic. Okay, you're making dinner. I mean, the practical things you depend upon for support. But then there's also the times when there were just, for me anyway, because my husband was very, you know, it's funny. I used to say, I used to call him Stonewall Jackson. One time I was like, "Do you know why I call you Stonewall Jackson?" And he goes, because you admire my great leadership and authoritarian manner." And I'm like,
That's not it.
no, it's because you don't like he was like he was very with his emotions. He kept them like hidden behind a stone wall a lot of times. So
Mm-hmm.
when I would have like bad days or be down, I mean, he was always like there for me to support me, whether that was just like with, okay, I know you had a long day. You left the house at 6:30. You're getting home. It's like 8 o'clock. Come, let me massage your feet. Let me massage your shoulders. I made dinner. I mean, he was always there to offer any type of support that I needed. He would sit and listen to me. I mean, if I woke him up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and said, you know, Avery has a fever. Okay, I'm going to the store. What do we need to buy? And I mean, he was just that person. Um, and I honestly, I didn't realize how many things that I depended upon him for until he was gone. Um, and that was hard. I mean, it was really hard because having your parents there, having your siblings there, having is one thing, but having your person there, I mean, is something completely different.
And you know what? You make a very valid point right there. Because that whole time and then it was you got me in the very beginning, and then like I was listening to what you were saying, but I was reflecting like, damn, like she hella just called me out right now. Because I just realized, and it's not in a bad way, I just realized that Cameron and I depended on each other so hard that it was almost easier for me to grieve a little bit quicker and step out of myself and go help others, because we were always a support system to others. We were the ones always there to help family. We were the ones that always were there to help the football team. We were the one always there to take in the kids. We were the ones always doing something. And when it came to, and not for those who just might so happen to hear the show, I'm not saying not everybody didn't do nothing before everybody gets the bandies in the bunch, but the whole point is, looking at it, we depended so hard on each other. Like, there were times where I would slack off because he was slacking off, and he would slack off because I was slacking off. But at the end of the day, we didn't go looking for somebody else to help us. It was always right back to each other. And after he died, it was almost like, okay, well, I'm just doing myself now. Now I just gotta find whatever it is in me that he taught me, and I gotta double up the support. So there's things that I'm learning, and I realize now there's been people like, let me help you here, let me help you. No, it's cool, let me help you. Like, what do you need help with? And it's flipped, but it's crazy to hear and like Lee said in the beginning, you know, it's not to say, oh, this is what it is. This is how widowhood is going to be for those just coming in. We're all different. We all have different experiences. And especially when it comes to the support systems, you know, like you guys up and moved, you know, and we were getting ready to move, but we stayed behind to support his family, like to help. Like that's what we did. So I think like this support topic, now I'm looking at it, I was like, oh, this is rough. How do I get a little, I have support, but now I'm looking at it like, dang, where in my personal life can I use that extra bit of support? You know what I mean? Like that would be really nice because I haven't, I missed that and I haven't had that real balance.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like
yeah.
I remember saying, you know, I'd use the example of like when Avery needs something, let's just say. And there's one thing to say, okay, you know, Richard, I need you to go get this from the store. I need you to go get that because I can't do it right now. And then, you know, the role of the husband, like, you know, or your spouse's role, I want to say as a wife, to be like, okay, sure. Yeah, I can pick it up. So I'm going to do it. But now when it's like the only person you have to ask is like your parents or like somebody, it's the ask is different, you know.
Yeah.
The ask is not like, okay, I need you to go to, you know, Walgreens and get this. The ask,
Yeah. It's almost feeling
hey,
helpless.
yeah, would you mind if it's not too much trouble, can you just go,
Yeah.
you know, whereas it's was never that way with him. It was always like we were such a team. Like we were such a good team in terms of like the yin and the yang and the balance and you know everything and just supporting one another. um I used to say to him sometimes like you know like, damn you, Richard, I need you to grieve you, like, like support me through your death, please.
Yeah.
I need your help with this. The
Yes,
hell are
Right.
you?
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really how I felt because he, ever since I met him, he has always, and when I met him, like we lived long distance. Like I lived in New Jersey. It wasn't really long distance, but I lived in New Jersey. He lived in DC. So I remember one day speaking to him and I was in New Jersey, he was in DC. It was like a Friday, you know, and it wasn't one of the weekends we were supposed to see each other. And then I was just like, oh my God, I had a rough day. This parent was just, and then, you know, and then this guy almost hit me on the way home and wound up flipping me off. And, you know, and then I'm just going on my like laundry stuff, you know. And he's like, well, you know what? I got something to cheer you up. Give me 5 minutes and I'm gonna be on the road and I'm gonna come up there. And we're gonna go out Friday night and we're gonna have a good time. And literally that was like at 4 o'clock and he was here by like 8:30, 9 o'clock because there was traffic. And he was here and he's always been like that, like always. And I didn't really realize just how much I depended upon him, especially to make decisions. Like every parent teacher conference we went to together, every, you know, school event, we were there together, every like birthday party, you know, what to get, all these decisions that like I didn't realize like I rely I relied on him. Like I hate going into parent teacher conferences now because I like hate going alone. Um,
That's how I feel about the grocery store.
yeah,
You
you never.
Go ahead, Jillian. Sorry.
Okay, good because I feel like I've been talking.
No. Okay.
But
It's you know the way we construct our support systems is never with the intention of saying, okay, great, I've built you all in this way because on a certain date down the road the person who's the most important to me is going to die, and so I'm going to be utterly dependent on others to help out as well too. But I think oftentimes when we look at the people who define our support system, they're the ones who have the character that we can trust. I look at who my wife was, and the people that we surrounded ourselves with are people who reflect, I think, as well too, her desire to care, her eagerness to support others as well too. And so whenever this hellscape, became my reality, we had in place, is the boys and I, we had in place friends who were willing and able to step into whatever shit show experience we had to go through in that moment. I was also fortunate that I had family members who were able to be present with me. I've talked many times about the fact that my sisters, in particular my one sister, basically lived with us for a time, which um I've told people, and I think it's something Jillian had said it before, which is, yeah, I could have done it without them, but I couldn't have done it well. And I couldn't have been the father I was able to be present with my boys in the midst of their grief as well, too, because it was clear to me very quickly that my wife had a very clear idea of how she wanted her boys to become men, like what the men she wanted them to be. And now that's on me to do. And so to do that, I need to have support as well too. And so my support systems that I rely on still to this day are ones who I think have um thick skins, for lack of a better term. They
Sorry, Lee, I don't mean to interrupt you. Oh, okay, there you go. You're back. You
Oh, did
froze for
I
a minute.
glitch up there for a minute?
You were like, and talking like that. How does that? It's magical.
It's because I'm a part-time model, Amber, and I look really good no matter what I do.
Are you a ventriloquist?
now.
Are you a ventriloquist model? Because you're
Yes.
literally
I don't know what
and
you're talking
talking.
about. Everything I'm saying right now makes complete sense, and everybody understands me. Watch as I drink this Dr. Pepper and talk. It's easy. You just do this.
And it spills all down his chest.
Yeah, pretty much. Suddenly
I'm
college.
sorry.
Anyways,
Funny.
they knew that if they would ask me a question like, Lee, can we go do this for you? I may not have even thought of that as a possibility. And so I might have said, I don't know, or make a decision. I don't care. And they're not taking it as, what, you don't care about what we're doing for you? No, they recognize I'm barely in a place to function. And so they had thick skin and emotional awareness that I could be raw and was unflinching in knowing that I was loved by my support system. Never as a replacement for Ashley, because no, that's not how that works. But as a supplement to help me be able to grieve in good ways. And so as we were telling these stories, I think it might be beneficial for us as well too to talk about what worked, what did work from our support systems that we appreciated. And there were some very tangible things. One person at my church set up something called Meal Train, which makes sense. Everybody's got like, oh, bring a dish. But what they did was somebody had put this into a website. And so they sent out the link of, if you would like to bring a dish, something to eat for, Pastor Lee and the boys, sign up here and let them know what it's going to be. And so that allowed me to see, oh, there's food coming. I don't have to worry about food. And it didn't have to, and they knew I set up a bin out front that, and the instructions even said, Pastor Lee has said he may not be able to answer the door some days. So if you ring or knock on the door and he doesn't answer, it's nothing personal. It's about, he can't. Yeah. And so place the food in the box and he'll take care of it. And so that really, for the first 3 months, we relied heavily on that. Even with my sisters here, because, yes, we could all go to the grocery store. Instacart is a thing and all those are wonderful, but just the mere thought of meal planning was absolutely nuts. And so, yes, you may have that. You want me to open it for you?
You know why?
Because speaking of
You know
meals,
why I want you, Dad?
Why?
Because we eat at Mr. house.
Right. I'm in a meeting right now, so I need you to step away so I can do my meeting, okay? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was just saying.
Shut the door behind you. I love you.
making history. Love it.
Mm-hmm. He is quite the storyteller. Anywho, so like having that, yes, because that's a very practical daily thing that worked very well for our family, and allowed us to get through to the next meal, frankly. So what were some things that worked for you guys?
I would say, like, a lot of times just people like doing, like, I mean, when my husband passed, I mean, my brother was here, who he lived in New Jersey at the time, but he was, he came to Charlotte, he stayed, and I had my mom, my stepdad, my dad flew in, my biological father flew in. Um, so I had like a team of people. And the one thing that, like, they really were kind of trying to be almost two steps ahead of, three steps ahead sometimes, of what I was going to need. Like, I remember, my brother coming into the room, like things that I didn't even think of, um, to take care of, almost like the business end of it. Like, I need Richard's like debit card. He needs this. I need his password because we're gonna like take the money out of the checking account before the government freezes. Like things that I would not like think to do, or we need to notify these people, or we need to like. They really kind of were really great at like taking care of all of those little like business legal things that you have, that you don't think you have to do, because you never think that this is where you're going to wind up or be. So they were really great at taking care of you know almost everything, to the fact until they did it a little too well, and it was kind of like, wait, when is his funeral happening? But and so it was, and they always made sure that my daughter was fed. They always made sure that she was kind of taken care of, and that she understood, your mom wants to be there for you, but right now your mom needs to at first be there for herself. And so a lot of times, for me, it was people, not so much that, oh, let me know if you need anything, type of deal, or I'm here if you need me. Call that, because like I'm not going to call you at that time. You know what I mean? I'm not, in my grief, in my moments, in my hour of like, I'm not going to call up someone, and but the people who kind of were like, even my husband's two best friends, I mean, we were all kind of thrown into the same pot of grief, because when I said, like, they were like his lifelong best friends. But even kind of, saying, okay, we're going to let people know, we're going to start a scholarship fund for Avery, or we're going to, and they took the time to really think about, okay, what am I going to need in this moment, or even how could they use their own strengths to help me get through this. I found that to be like just incredibly supportive. More than any words of wisdom, or I can't say words of quote unquote wisdom, or saying my thoughts and prayers are with you, or I'll be praying for you and your family. Let me know if you need anything, because it's kind of like,
we'll get to that one a little bit later.
Yeah. So, I would just say, anticipating the needs, the things that had to be done at that moment. Even I
Mhm.
remember one time my brother taking the time to just Google like what has to be done in the event. What does, what should a spouse do if their spouse like, and him actually going through that list and doing all those things, a lot of those things for me. I found that to be, very, very helpful. And I want to say this very low in case she hears me, because I almost don't ever want to let her know. I even found my mom's insistence that every single day that I open the blinds,
Mm.
single day, I stood outside for at least 5 minutes, even though some days in the beginning, it literally took 3 people to like get me downstairs
Mhm.
because I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel the floor underneath me. But you know, I am thankful for that, because I could have stayed in my room with my Woodford Reserve, which is like one of my favorite bourbons, and just stayed there for about, the next month at least. But through all my rawness, through all my, F offs, through all my, she would literally make me stand outside every single day.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful for that. I really am. And I would say sometimes we need those people to kind of push you a little bit, but also just knowing like enough's enough,
Yeah.
you know. And they know you well enough to know when, like, okay, we could get Jillian to stand in the sunlight today for about 5 minutes. Jillian's not going to go to the grocery store. Jillian's not going to go. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But having those people who know you enough to know like kind of where your limits are and understand that, is to me that was very key.
Amber?
Well, thinking back to it, like Julian had said earlier, like the first year is a real blur. Like I could probably only tell you bits and pieces. But I had a couple friends that for like a good, I don't even know. Again, I don't know. It was a solid
Good
amount of
time.
time. It was a solid amount of time that they were always there. And it was just, all right, I brought the kids food. Amber, did you eat? You gotta eat, and doing the reminders, like, did you do this? Hey, you need to do this. Hey, did you check in with it? And not being forceful, but just like, come on, we got to make sure that you're taken care of this way, that you and the kids are taken care of. So they would bring food for the kids. They would try to get me to eat, but I was one of those widows who didn't eat. Like I just they had to like damn near force feed me smoothies. At one point I was like, just give me a goddamn smoothie and leave me alone. Just give me liquor, weed, and cigarettes and just let me sit outside. That was me. Like, and they, come inside. No, I don't want to be inside. I want to be outside. This is where my butterfly is, like that. And to me, that was Cameron. So that's where I wanted to be at. But the best support they gave me was just being there with me. And no matter what it was, like now I could sit there and just tear up and they would just sit there. And it was comforting. And then, after a little bit, they gave me that time and they always found a way to make me smile or think about something else, just even for a minute or two. And that was probably the best support system we had because I didn't want to go to the store. It reminded me too much of him. I didn't I wanted to feed my kids, but I just couldn't. So them just making sure that they had what they needed that was the biggest thing. And they just, okay, we brought something small for you. We know you're not gonna eat it, but it's here. Here's your bag of weed. Here's your bottle. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. Let's go sit on the patio now. And it was just something like that. And my mom really like, did you call Social Security? Did you, because I was a stay-at-home mom, you guys. Like I didn't have an income. We ran a business. So that was like, okay, now you need to go apply for assistance. I didn't want to deal with all that. So it took me forever to even get us like financially stable. Like we had the family though, they did step in, and like they helped us out like majorly financially. And my best friend and my mom, they started give her her cup. Sorry, one sec. Gave her or they started a GoFundMe page. And so like we had a little assistance there, but it was really that and a lot of those questions that came up, like, what do you need? Well, I don't fucking know what I need. Like, I'm not even, I don't know. Like, that was my answer to everything. I don't know. You decide. Like, my mom, like, what do you want for dinner? Do you want to go out to eat? Lady, I don't know what that you're even talking about right now. You're speaking a whole different language. It's trying to restart everything. And I think it came to a point where they just realized, like, she's not here right now. And we
Mm-hmm.
just have to let her just not be here right now. And it got to a point where it was okay, let me get up and take a shower. And I started to see everybody kind of fade away. And you guys, you made a very valid point. Those ones who know you, that's that support, because when they don't know you, they just fucking they fade away in 7 days. And I've heard this from so many widowed. Took them 7 days and gone. That support, those people that say, "Oh, we'll be there for you," is, okay, gone. So what do you do from there? And then I told my daughter, I remember telling her, I'm about to be a fucked up mom for a while. Like, I'm not gonna be a good mom. I don't, I won't know how. And my kids took it. I know deep down inside, like they still hurt, but they took it well. We almost just said, okay, we just gotta go through this shit together. And my kids were probably like my biggest support system, especially my oldest. She started, taking over more, helping out with my daughter, my youngest one. Okay, get up for school, started cleaning the house a little bit more and doing stuff like until I was like, okay, mom, let me take back over. And I was able to get up to go to the grocery store or whatever, because nobody, I mean, even the ones that were there, they had to get back to their life. They couldn't sit around and taking care of me and my kids all the time. So, but like I said, the finding the support system now that we moved out here, and I've opened up to people a little bit more, and I see that like when we go to kickboxing, my kids really, they've really connected to the coaches, and I see them opening up, and that makes like, so I'm like, okay, and like we went to the fight last night, the event that the kickboxing gym that holds whatever it was in Prescott last night. But my daughter had a breakdown last night because today's Cameron's birthday, and she was freaking out and wouldn't talk to me. But the coach went outside, and I walked outside, and they're just like hugging, and my daughter's crying, and she's like, I know you guys is gonna be, and calming my daughter. So like just seeing her supporting my daughter as well in that outside, because I know for my kids it's hard to, let me go to grandma, let me go to mom, because when you're in something so much, it's hard to go to that person that's in it with you. So like to see that, I was like, okay. And she turned to me, she's like, anything you need, just call me. So knowing that people are willing to support you in any way, whether it's just talking, whether it's just hearing you, whether it's just, come to the gym a little bit more, whatever it is. Like, I think now I'm at a point I'm in a receiving mode for that. I
Mhm.
wasn't in a receiving mode to accept all that. It was just there, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to take it. Because, like you, Jillian said, I wasn't gonna call you. If I needed something, I wasn't about to call you. I wasn't calling Instacart. I wasn't ordering nothing. I wasn't asking nobody for nothing. You know,
Mhm.
so it just became one of those things where if it's there, it's there.
I think it's also important to recognize that part of what makes support systems work is that they can change, they can adapt. I think that there are people who are really good at crisis mode. Like they can really get things done, get things working. But when then things stabilize a little bit, they don't, that's not necessarily where their gift is. And so I can say there were some people who, especially the first, couple months, were incredibly active because that was their gift. That was how they could. And then as things started to settle out a little bit and we hit a bit of routine, which seems almost impossible to think about, but we did. Other people were able to step in as well too, and while their different gifts showed up in different ways, I think the core of who they were was that they loved us. They were there, and they did what they could, and that, as an acts of service person, meant more to me than anything else. And so I think we've hinted at some of the stuff as well too that doesn't work. So let's talk about that for a moment as well too. Let's talk about some of the stuff that doesn't work. And I think we can all safely say the following phrase does not work. If you need me, call me. I understand you're kind. I understand you're trying. That's not going to happen.
Because you know what? I felt like, looking back on it, I couldn't tell you why that phrase frustrated me, but I think now I could like verbalize it and reflecting, because it was like, to me, you're just putting one more thing on me.
Yeah.
Like like why is it up to me to reach out to you? Um, and it was kind of like, when they would say something like that, it was like, you really don't understand anything that I'm going through right now. My
Mhm.
world has just fucking blown up in my face.
Mhm.
Like it is crumbled. The world that I knew no longer exists. And you fucking want me to call you when I need you?
Mhm.
Like, no.
Mhm.
Like, thanks, but no thanks.
Mhm.
You
And
know?
and I think the other part of that is, and it has to do with the awkwardness of grief, because there is nothing nice about grief. There's nothing polite about grief. Whenever we see somebody grieving, at least this is and I'm projecting here, so maybe I'm missing. I think when people saw me grieving, they struggled for two reasons. One, because of my job. I'm a pastor. So a pastor grieving, well, wait, that can't be. He should be, that they didn't know how to equate that. Like there was a human element to my job that they had, maybe just they weren't ready to absorb that. Fine. But even if that's not the case, I think some people struggle because they're afraid that they might someday be in this situation and they don't want to think about that. And frankly, I don't blame them. I don't even want to think about it either. And so they say things to be kind and supportive, but they don't know how to because it's too real.
Because I find, like, as a society, we don't
Mm.
talk about death. We
Mm-mm.
we don't. And we don't have those open discussions. The moment, like, if you're in a group of people and you just bring up like death, not related to somebody dying, but just the idea of death and grief, it's always, why are you darkening the mood? Let's talk about something lighter. Let's talk about, happier times and happier. So because I find we don't talk about death a lot as a society, people who haven't experienced the type of death of losing a spouse, um, they don't know what to say. They don't. And sometimes, and what people seem to struggle with the most is sometimes when you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. Just,
Yep.
you know, and that's really like, if I heard, well, God has a plan, and and excuse me, Lord, I'm just going back, I'm rewinding time and acting like a recorder. But at the top of my head, I wanted to be like, fuck God and his fucking plan. You think I give a
Yeah.
shit about God's plan?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that doesn't make me feel any better. What, God, it was God's plan for my husband to die, for him to not be here? Like,
What fucking plan is that?
exactly. Everything happens for a reason. Like, um, so, but you're right. It's because a lot of people just don't know what to say, and people sometimes feel that they have to say something
Mm-hmm.
when, I would much rather be like, yeah, this sucks. This is
Mm-hmm.
fucked up, Jill. This is fucked up. This
Oh.
just sucks. Like, I don't even know where to begin. It just, like, I would have appreciated that rather than, everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the call me if you need anything or whatever, the other one I also hated was when they're in your face. I'm like, well, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want to do? Do you need to do this? Do you need to, like, why are you asking me a million questions? I don't have the brain capacity to build up answers for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you want me to pull them from. And as far as God's plan goes, God can bite my left butt cheek and step on glass in his sandals. I don't know, and I don't care at the moment, because when we meet, I have some words for him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, it's, and that's part of, I think, the struggle is we don't talk about it as a culture. I look at other cultures throughout history. They seem to be completely comfortable talking about death. We, in our culture, do not. We don't like thinking about it. We don't like talking about it. We don't like showing it. We very much struggle. And there's a whole wealth of conversations just along that topic alone. But I think the other part of it that, when I would find people who would, well, what, we're there if you need us, they often were preceded by one of these lines. Well, what happened? Well, I'm proud of myself because I am a snarky human being. At no point did I answer, well, what happened, with the following question. She stopped breathing. Just and other completely smart ass lines that really made me, well, what happened? We didn't pay our taxes for the fiscal year and we came back for it. Like, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that I really wanted to say. And I get that people are genuinely trying to be supportive. And so they ask that question. But again, I think some people, because I think I can't prove it because my wife had a weird medical history to start with, but I believe COVID did play a part in her passing because we both had COVID really bad 2 months before she died. And, and somebody, one person tried making it, her death a political thing. Well, you can't put that vaccine and that stuff. And I'm like, I don't care what you think about the vaccine. I don't care. My wife's death is not used for your political justifications. My wife's passing, my tears, my son's sorrow cannot be used by you to justify the way you think. So stop it. And so I called them the justifiers and the historians. Those people who tried to rationalize the irrational, who tried to justify the unjustifiable, because then that way they don't have to worry about it.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
And in listening to you, Lee, one of the things that, like, there are some people, after my husband's funeral, I didn't understand why I didn't go to the repast. And you know, and that's not, she should be there, she should be. And it was kind of like the last thing that I want to do right now
Mhm.
is go. I just buried my husband. Do you think I want to go fucking sit in a restaurant and eat a meal
Mhm.
and smile and be happy and jovial to make you feel better? And when I said that I wasn't going, and my mom and my brother, they were like, we support you in that, whatever you need to do. And like, we'll be there though, because that was something I think his side of the family really wanted was
Mhm.
the pass. And they said, we'll be there, just like but you don't have to go.
Mhm.
And that was very supportive. Like I felt like they had my back in that moment and that they really understood me. And I think like sometimes people want you to do things that are very because it makes them feel better. And
I just wanted to jump in one thing here real quick because the repast, not everybody knows it by that name.
okay.
Some people know it as a funeral dinner. Some know it as some wakes are kind of like that as well too. But the idea is after the service itself is completed, there's a time of friends and family, kind of a limited entity. That's what the repast is. But a funeral dinner is usually open to more, and it's a time of fellowship and gathering as well too. Just I wanted to give that bit of history
Yeah,
because
no, I
I don't know if
appreciate
everybody knows that one.
yeah.
I denied it because my husband's cousin asked, "Where do you want to do it? Do you have a house to do it?" I don't even want to do it.
Mhm.
I didn't even want to do the funeral, man. Why do I want to do all this extra stuff? Like, what are you talking about?
We did it, and initially I wasn't going to, but one of the persons who wanted to do it said it to me this way: Pastor, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to be going on, and there's a lot of things you may not know. This is one way we can show you we love you. And we want to serve you in this way if we can, if you're okay with it. And when they presented it that way, it took on a completely different tone. And so for me, because I'm an acts of service guy, I'm like, oh, well, they're speaking my language. They want to fine. Then I'm completely okay with it. And invited people over, and it was kind of what I expected it to be as well too. There was quiet for about 7 seconds. And then we all kind of started laughing and telling stories. The different groups of people who gathered because they either knew Ashley from before me or they knew Ashley as Ashley and Lee. Like, we were both together. So there's so many people who know her and in different ways, different versions. And so they're telling these stories and there's some things that are consistent in that Ashley tolerated no bullshit whatsoever, which I still don't know why she was with me for that, because that's my gift. But, you hear these stories. And so I got a chance and just kind of sat there and listened. And I got to hear. So for me, it did work. And I was also fortunate enough as well, too. Again, it gets back to that support system idea. My support system also knew how to read me. They knew, okay, Lee needs a minute. And they also know how my brain processes information. So for example, if the both of you were to throw an idea at me right now that I had never thought of, I'm not going to have an answer right now. I'm going to need time to think about it. I need to think it through. And so my sisters would bring me an idea throughout the grief as, hey, what would you think about this? I'm like, ask me tomorrow. Perfect. Because they know even in my grief addled brain, it's bouncing around. It's doing something. And so by the next time they ask me, I know what they're coming with the question. It's not an extra burden. And if I say no or yes or whatever I say, cool, no problem. We just wanted to know what direction you wanted this to go. So it wasn't if you need us, just ask for help. It was, here's the help we're giving. And I think as well, too, when we talk about support systems, it's intentional named help. It's saying, I'm going to bring you a meal. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? It's, I'd love to take your kid out for some ice cream. Can I get them Thursday or Friday? It's, hey, there's a concert coming up. I know you like concerts. How about I watch your kids on this day? I know you like this band. Why don't you go down there? It's that specific named thing, not that vague general, whatever you might need. Really, whatever I need my wife back. Do that. If you can't do that, go. And is it fair?
Up on my face.
Yeah. Is it a fair feeling to have? Fuck no. None of what we're going through is fair. But it's what we're feeling.
Yeah. Because I can remember that, Lee, when someone said to me one time, well, what is it you need? Like, what do you need? And I'm like, I need my husband.
Mhm.
Can you deliver that? Can you
Mhm.
bring it back to me? Because if not, please,
Then we have nothing to talk about.
yes, please be on the other side of that door.
Yeah,
Not in
turn
here
this
with
shit the
me.
fuck up.
So I love how you explain that with the named intentional help.
Mhm.
And I wish some way we could like spread that word beyond like the widow world into like normies, the normal people who've never gone through this. So
We're
that
going to get so much people getting us hate comments on YouTube. We're not normies. Okay.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
if you can label me whatever you feel like, I'm gonna label
Yeah.
you whatever. You feel like.
There you go.
I labeled you as just slightly crazy. Is that okay?
That's great.
Yeah.
You could probably even drop the slightly.
Just crazy.
Straight crazy.
Just
Because
crazy.
but like, and it's important though, like, and I've really been thinking of this, to really write or even put together just something because, let's face it, most people in the world are going to go through it. If you're in a marriage, one of you is going to go through this. One of you has to be on this ride. Unless God says, hey, both of you come home at the same time, one of you will be on the fucking roller coaster and we have a
Right.
seat for you. And it's really important that eventually that we do put together some sort of video or something saying, hey, this is what y'all need to prepare for. And this is your possibility. So I mean, yes, as much as this channel is for the widowed, it's also for friends and family of the widowed. It's also for married couples. It's also for those, in situations that maybe you're preparing to lose your spouse. And you need to know what's to come. So I mean, everything that we talk about, hopefully it does reach
And
majority of years.
I think there's one extra little caveat I want to attach to that before I get to the final question for the night today. And that is, I recognize as well, too, that those people who have gathered, they're grieving as well. Yeah, they lost a friend. They lost, as I look at the dynamics of the people who are there, they are trying to do two very difficult things. They're trying to grieve the loss of a friend, a coworker, a daughter, a granddaughter, a niece, like the whole list of titles that she was. And they're also trying to support the three people who are more important to her than anything else. I don't pretend to believe that's an easy situation. And so I have some grace for those in those positions. And that's why a lot of times when I've worked with families who are grieving, I've had to tell them, well-meaning and loving people are going to say and do the stupidest things imaginable. Give them grace. It's unfair that you have to be the one to do it, but know that they're grieving too, because there's the reason that they count as a support system is because they matter to you and the spouse, and they're struggling too. And so be patient with them just as you would ask them to be patient with you. So I just want to make sure, because while there are some normies that are utterly oblivious in their own happy little world, I also know there's more than a few who are grieving in that moment as well too. But I think that is a nice segue then to this final one, because of all the things that I had to contend with, there was the emotional hijacker who I had to basically sever ties with, who I had to basically no longer count as a person in my life because they weren't doing anything to help. And I know that sounds selfish. Right now, don't care. Because my role as a grieving father is to make sure that the people who are in my life can help me reach the goal that I know my wife had for my sons. And this one person in particular just had no ability to see the world 6 inches outside of their nose. And so they kept trying to equate some of their struggles with what I experienced. And I'm like, and I recognize that my mindset is, even if you've gone through the exact same thing that I've gone through, it's not the same experience because I'm just a different person and you're a different person. What I wanted to ask the both of you, how did you separate from those who were not helping, who were not actually supporting you, but were, if anything, an emotional anchor?
I'll answer this one first. And this goes for anybody in any situation. I will just ghost you. Goodbye. And it took, unfortunately, it took my husband's passing for me to learn how to cut people off very easily, because I used to be that person. Oh, let me give them another chance. Let me help them. Man, they're just going to do this. And after he died, and I saw how quickly people dropped off from me and my kids, and especially just left my kids behind. When I saw, it wasn't even about me, but in my mind, it was, you guys see a woman now by herself with 3 children. And it made me realize you were never there for any of us. You were there to benefit from my husband. And when they fell off and people started coming into my life after that, I really started watching those actions, because I never really understood that, apparently. And he would always tell me, no, watch for this person, watch that person. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Da, 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 da. Straight oblivious. And now I'm like,
Wait a minute. This is a very touchy thing, but I'm pausing now for a moment to think that Amber's like, oh, da 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 da. Like that response to an argument is gloriously entertaining. Please continue.
Well, and that's what it was, though, because if he was here now, he would tell you my wife is a white girl. Like, she's a ditz. Like that's and that's me. I asked him one time, like, why do you love me? Like, what is it? Like, and I knew I was a little weirdo. And he's like, because you're so nice and you're just like, your white girl comes out. If you guys didn't know, I'm mostly white. I'm 56% British Colombian. I'm just a black haired, dark brown hair white girl.
6%. That is so precise.
Yeah, because I did the ancestry DNA. I know this.
He knows it's down to the percentage.
Yeah, 54%. And then there's like Nigerian and some Asian in there, but the Asian is like 2 to 4%, very, very minute. But anyway, so but at the time, my arguments were very much like, when I reflect on it now, my arguments to the stuff I understand now was very much like, there's no sense or rhyme or reason to them, just because I wanted us to have friendships. I wanted us to be that couple, that others looked up to, others came to. We were together, we were that power couple. And like I said earlier, we were always the ones supporting everybody else. Like, what can we do? Da da da. But now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, if you can't reciprocate the same, even just a little bit of what I'm getting, I can't keep doing that. And I feel like I don't owe you a reason. And I don't feel like I have to give anybody an explanation as to why I'm walking away from you, because if I walk away, to me, because if one of you were to walk away and not talk, like within 24 hours, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you talking to me? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? I'm coming after you. You know what I mean? Because I care for you. And I know it may sound crazy. Like I said, he can drop the very minute part. Just you're just a little crazy. No, I'm crazy. It's okay. But in my head, if you care for me and you don't hear from me, and you know I'm going through something and you don't hear from me and you don't check on me, that's enough said. I'm not gonna come back to you. Or like Lee said, if you're coming at me knowing I'm going through something and you want to talk about whatever's sitting on the tip of your nose, I'm not talking to you. I'm gonna let you go because you're not reciprocating when I have those needs. So yeah, I have no problem ghosting somebody. Bye.
Mhm.
You know,
Jillian, have
I
you
was
had to
gonna
experience that?
say- oh yeah. And I was gonna say, similar to Amber, prior to, losing Richard, losing my husband, I was like one of those type of people that I'm just gonna keep giving you chances because, I want to see the best in people. I want to see, even though you could be using and taking advantage of me in the process,
Mm-hmm.
but I still was believing that eventually, good would win and, all that stuff. But in losing my husband, it's this kind of newfound strength where if I could manage to survive without him, I could
Mhm.
survive without anybody.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to be one of those people who are like they say emotional vampires,
Mm-hmm.
because I had one friend who it almost kind of felt like she was going through a divorce at the time, and it almost kind of felt like with her, she would listen to me, but then it felt like she was constantly trying to like one up me.
Mm.
And like, the our grief for in my grieving versus her, and like, and that constant like competition, it was kind of like, well, you spent the morning crying, girl, I've cried like all day, because let me tell you, and it was just, you know so as Amber said, I just had to just let her go. It was kind of like the phone would ring, you'd look down and you'd be like, oh, not answering that.
Not answering you. Oh, look, I have no cell phone service.
Let me go light down the counters right now. That's what I should be doing.
Exactly.
Oh, look, I have a hammer and I'm just hitting things. Oh no, the
Yes.
phone. Oh, darn.
And then my daughter sometimes will be like, do you want me to just hit the red button? I'd be like, no, because then they'll know.
Then they'll know I heard it. I can't have that.
No, just let it ring. Just let it ring. But, but then, after a while, it got to be like, oh, you hit the red button. I don't care. I'm like, because I just, you know, um, yeah, I just had to really learn. And then a couple of years, about a year, 2 years after my husband passed, I ran into her and she was just like, oh my God, Jillian, so how are you? Oh, you've been on my mind. Like, I was trying to call you and it seemed like you weren't trying to call me back. And I was like, because I wasn't.
You are correct. Congratulations. You get to see the backside of me walking away.
Yes. And she was all, and then, I really had to stand there and explain to her. I mean, why, like in that season, in that moment of my life, we could not coexist as friends,
Right.
because she couldn't get over her hurt enough to be there for me, and I guess maybe in her mind it was vice versa. I couldn't get over mine to be there for her. But then I was like, bitch, my husband died. Yours divorced you and moved around the block. Like, I mean, what do you want?
And I think it's one of those too. It's like when you have the story toppers, they're the ones trying to say, "Oh, I deserve the most." Yeah, and I've had conversations with people who have been divorced. They're not trying to story top me. They're just sharing as well too. Yeah, this is oh man, that really sucked. Yeah, I went through something as well, but not like what you did, but here was a struggle too. And it's not that they're trying to story top me. I think what they're trying to do in those moments is say, I won't pretend to know what it's like for you. I know the hell I went through, very different, and it was hell anyways. And it was that respectfulness towards it made
Yes.
me way more receptive to hear them and to be present with them as well too. And so I want to make sure we name that too, because I think there are people who they try to use similar experiences. Please don't. You're not going to. I don't want you to.
No.
I physically don't want you to have a similar experience to me. I could hate you with every bone of my body. I still don't want you to go through this.
And that's fair. Like I have a friend who is divorced, and this friend is very like understanding on what I'm going through, and it's like I just like you said, I'm not gonna sit here and compare anything. Like I feel for you. And I got to thinking, like, as somebody who's lost my spouse, and I've had that thought of, I would rather you be alive and we be divorced than this situation. And I think about it but then I think about like and like you said, it's a very fine line of what similarities are when it comes to when it comes to
It's a
experiences.
very fine line. Yes, it is.
It's a fine line, and some topics the lines are a lot thicker than others,
Can we
but
not
when
compare sizes? I get insecure.
Exactly.
yeah, but when it comes to I feel it, and the way I've analyzed this, I think when divorced people who are in that situation in the comparison mode, when they say, "Oh, I understand," I think in a very honest, wholeheartedly heartfelt way, they can understand to the point where they don't have that person there in their life anymore. Because it is to a very stopping point, their stop sign is over here on it.
Yeah.
It's very much okay, you're used to having this person in your life, and then they're not there. You don't have that daily routine anymore.
Right.
However, you have a chance to have something there if you're able to get to that point.
Yeah.
Ours is just wiped away, so we don't have a stop sign.
To
And
me, it comes down to they had a choice, I did not.
exactly. And that's where those lines start getting thicker and thicker and thicker,
Yeah.
Okay, you can stop comparison now, because now you have no argument.
And I'm not pretending, because like I'm a child of divorce as well too, and it's I'm not going to pretend that the decision to be divorced is easy. That's not it. The decision to be divorced is also a choice, just like the decision to get married is a choice. One way or another, it's a choice. My wife's passing was not the choice I made, nor is it the choice she would have made. So, and does that mean that those who committed suicide made that choice? No, that's not what I'm saying. So if that's the reality for your grief as well too, please, suicide is a nuanced thing. And often those who do commit suicide aren't seeking to be dead, but as much as end the pain of whatever it is.
And you know what? I will speak on that one, because my husband's case was a supposed suicide. And you're right. It's not, I fought with that for a while. Like, damn, you're just gonna leave us like that? Like, that's how you feel? Like, that was your choice. But at the end of it, that's not what his goal was. And in that time and moment, I believe they don't have that thought process, because
Correct.
everything else is just and this. Once we do this, everything else is be done. But the rest of it doesn't fully kick in until after. And it's like, oh shit, I just fucked up. So and that's very true to say. So even for those widowed of the suicide, it's one of those very fine lines as well. Because it's those demons that step in and take over at that point.
Jillian, do you have anything you want to add here? I think we're coming towards a good conclusion here, but I wanted to make sure because you were going to say something a couple times and I think I stepped on you and I apologize for that.
No, you didn't. And you know what? It clearly wasn't important because I don't even remember it. No, but I was.
It was so important. I let it go.
Yes, let it go. No.
Let it go.
Like Oh, I forgot. See, once again, I forgot what I was going to say. But I did want to say at one point when we were talking about, and like you said, we're not going to start comparing sizes between, us and like the divorced people. No, because it's very different. But I think that for the widowed, I mean, it's, to me at least, it's almost like apples and oranges. Yes, they're both still a fruit because a loss is a loss, but that's where the similarities end.
It tastes different. The insides look different.
Yeah, and I think that's where it ends. Because if I divorced my husband, my child would still have a father.
Yeah.
Like my kid wouldn't have to grow up fatherless. And so, I mean, I'm just gonna like leave it like that right there. I mean, the permanency of death. And I didn't have to know. I mean, you never really have time to like say, okay, I'm going to prepare to be a widow, and there's going to be a lawyer that's going to sit down with me and talk to me about being a widow, and it is very different. And so one thing I would always ask the divorce community to do, and I grew up, I mean, my parents divorced when I was 3. My mom didn't remarry until I was 18. So I can definitely, I know about, being from a divorced household or coming from that. But, the one thing that we as widowed would like y'all to know in terms of support, story topping. And I like that phrase, Lee. I'm going to have to borrow that from here on out instead of my one up. I'm going to have a new phrase now to interchange. But story topping, because you're trying to draw some type of similarity, is probably one of the worst things that you can do to someone who is widowed.
And my hope is in somebody recognizing that, expand that out. Supporting somebody does not happen when you minimize their emotion by comparison. So if this helps somebody not be a jackass, perfect. We've done a really good job with today's episode. And that's my hope as well too, is that people feel going forward that you don't feel the need to minimize or put somebody's grief into perspective. That's not your job.
No.
Your job, this was a support system episode because that's what we're talking about. Your job is to be a support, not a son of a bitch.
Yeah. And if you have somebody like that in your life, use those situations in your stories not to compare, but to learn. What similarities are there? What is something that you can learn as a divorcee? What can you learn from a widow's friend's situation? And same with the widow. What can you learn from a divorce situation?
Don't get remarried. I'm guessing that's going to be the thing they're going to teach us.
Well, to each his own on that one, but because I know as a widow, I'm not getting remarried. Like I have no plans on it. Even if I were to get in a relationship, like I'm not getting married. I'm not doing it again.
So we'll save that
But
conversation
will
for the
never
dating
say
episode coming
never.
up
Yeah.
later down the pike.
But
Amber.
we got stories.
Oh, we've got stories.
who has stories? You got stories? I can't wait to hear stories.
Yeah, neither can I.
Yeah, I got one, and that's it for now. So,
It's
anyways,
funny because sometimes, right, because we're all on the screen like this, and you'll say something, and I'll give you guys a look of some type or knowing gaze or knowing it, and I completely forget. Yeah, that has no effect because y'all can't see me.
but it's fun.
But yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It is. Because I know like some of the viewers who watch this probably like, why did she just make that face? Or why did she?
See,
I'm
that's
like,
where you start
"No."
having fun with it. Watch me. She was
Yeah.
possessed a little bit for just about 7 seconds. She was possessed. She's fine. Moving on.
That's probably how memes are created, right?
See,
And I'm
exactly.
thinking, oh, she's looking at me trying to call me out. I'm gonna look at Lee now.
Yeah.
By all
I'm
means,
looking for you.
please gaze upon my magnificence.
Yes.
I think we're probably at a good spot to end here. Amber, Jillian, is there anything you want to say before I bring us to a conclusion?
I would just like to end it out and just I guess ending out of today. And here's perfect. Okay, let me put it this way. Because today is Cameron's birthday, his second heavenly birthday, I would like to go ahead and dedicate this one to him. And I want to dedicate this one to him because we were going to talk about the dating stuff for the third episode today. And Lee decided to change it because of that situation, but it turned out perfectly because that right there was probably a support. Lee is very good at reading people and saying the right thing when needed.
Yeah.
It's like going to church and the pastor just knows, like,
The
I don't, you
pastor.
know,
Yes. So
you just know, and we
he's
have
walking
to
in his
have,
gift. He's
but
walking.
just the fact that we happen to have this scheduled every other Sunday and none of us had it scheduled down for today. And Jillian was like, are we doing this? And like you guys, I didn't want to do anything today. I wanted to get a bottle, make some food, and chill out on my children on the couch with my kids and not do a fucking thing today and just cry. And that right there shows that support. And especially having this community is so important for those just getting on the ride, because when you don't know what it is, and when you wake up on special occasions like today or anniversaries or the Memorial Day of their transition date, and your mind is like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, no, I'm not gonna do this, no, I'm gonna, and you're just like on the roller coaster again of emotions, just different thoughts. And to have that support to just step in on divine timing and say, hey, we got to go record today. Hey, we got a basketball game today, or hey, let's go to the park, or whatever it is, to have that community just to step in and be like, oh shit, I know exactly what they're probably feeling today. Let's go ahead and sidetrack their mind for a little bit. And that's what you guys did. So to have that support today, I appreciate you guys, and I thank you, and I love you even more for that, because it was one of those days like, what am I gonna do? Whatever, I don't know. Just all day.
I want to say something. I feel like what I'm about to say may just kind of extend this discussion. But one of the things that I like that I find helpful for me, whenever I have, like you said, like the day of his death, our anniversary, his birthday, things like that. One of the things, Valentine's Day, one of the things that I found for me that works is to like have a plan for the day of like, what am I going to do? And usually I'll find some way to like honor him, whether it's eating his favorite food, going to a bar and drinking like his favorite, margarita, on the rocks, no salt, something. I find something to do. And I also have a question for you, Amber, because does it bother you? Because I know for me, it bothers me when on his birthday, people wish him like happy heavenly birthday. I don't know, that like really irks my nerves, like nothing else. No, this is not his heaven. He was not born in heaven on this. Like I can't. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being nitpicky, but it drives me crazy.
Well, here's my take on that. After today, I think last year I said heavenly birthday, but I think it was more I erased it. I was just like, happy birthday, like it's your birthday. And today I thought about it, like this is the second birthday he spent in heaven. And I had to really think about it because I can't tell him happy birthday. I can't think of him as 40. My daughter had to correct me. I was like, he's 38. She's like, no, mom. And I think for me now, after thinking about it this morning, I would rather celebrate and say heavenly birthday and kind of restart it because it's his second one. It's not his 40th. He doesn't get to celebrate his 40th birthday. You know, he's celebrating a second year in heaven. He's celebrating a second year not hurting. He's celebrating a second year of being in peace. You know, and I don't want it to be something that is heart-wrenching on us. Like, oh my God, here's another year, another birthday he's gone. I want it to be it's his second year of his soul's journey. It's the second year into whatever it is he's doing now. You know, I want it to be a positive thing. I mean, maybe it's the whole heavenly part of it, and for me, it's the birthday part. Like you, like it's not a birthday. He's not his soul. I guess if you want to consider it, his soul is reborn on that day. But even then,
Oh, and like
I started a new journey. You know, his soul started a new journey. So maybe like transition day. Maybe we can come up with something.
But I feel like, because for me, everything that you just said, I mean, and I feel like I feel that way about January 12th because I feel like January 12th is his heavenly birthday because that is when he went to heaven and he was, became the form that God, calls him to be. I feel like every year on the day, that he passed is like that's when they probably celebrate his birthday as the day he entered into heaven. So that's kind of, I mean, and everybody has their own way of looking at it.
Never thought about that.
And no way is like right or wrong, it's just everyone's different. But that's kind of like how I view January 12th.
I never thought about his death date like that. That's a good way to look at it. Lee's looking at us like, shut the hell up. I gotta go.
Lee's not saying a thing. Just the feral beast that runs in
my
here.
kid has come by twice. We got to wrap this up.
So, again, part of those, one of the things I want to say here that I think you guys hit on very well and is a great conclusion to what I was going to say. Isaac, you need to wait. I'm almost done. Thank you, sir. Is when we talked about support groups. That's the idea of what this was. Support systems. What made them work? What makes them not work? And I think the heart of it, if you're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, if I had to boil it down to one thing, it is named intentional support. It's laced with grace, patience, and grace. You need that much patience, that much grace to get through it. It's to be willing to have a plan and then recognize that it might have to flip on the fly. Why? Because emotionally the person you care about can't go where they thought they wanted to go. And as a support system, that's what we need, is to be able to have somebody recognize that and go, we need to flip the script. Done. Let's go over here now. Let's go for tacos instead of steak. Why? Because it's tacos. You can't go wrong.
And I think, Lee, you bring up such a great point. You just said that. And this whole idea of like support has to be offered with the other person in mind. It can't be about you and what you feel like comfortable with, or what you want to do, or what you have in mind, or what you think would make you feel well, or what you would want. You have to have the other person at the forefront of the mind that you are supporting.
And the final thought I have before, because I think we're at the end here. I think this is a good space to end, is this. Be willing to receive support. We are notoriously stubborn people. Be willing to receive support, not seeing it as somebody's getting one over on you, not
Weakness.
seeing it as somebody's going to hold it as emotional baggage for something later on, or emotional currency or emotional credit, but somebody loves you enough to offer support to you.
Let
If
go
you
of
don't have
that
any,
feeling of
if you
being
don't have any red flags going off from that person, because I recognize there are people who take those moments and are complete dickheads, and we'll take care of them in a later conversation, but don't be opposed to receiving support as well too.
Yes,
don't feel like you're being a burden.
You're
No.
not a burden. You
don't-
are a beautiful person who is wounded.
It's the assistance. Yeah, you need
And
it.
don't be
Everybody needs help.
afraid
Don't feel that.
to play the widowed card.
Play the shit out of that card.
Yes.
Don't worry, nobody can top it. We already talked about that.
Yes.
Anyways,
I'm serious. Don't be
no,
afraid.
That's another topic.
Yes.
but
That's another topic.
on that conclusion, friends, crazy compatriots on this hellscape shit show of a journey, thank you for listening to us. It is our hope that in hearing us tell our stories, you feel the ability to share your story and to know that you are loved and supported as well too. Thanks for being here with us. We'll talk to you soon.